Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for supporting job seekers with skills-based hiring technologies and digital skills. So before I turn it over to our presenter, I'd like to introduce, if you don't already know him, Robert Breitbart from Burlington English. They are our valued sponsor for today's webinar. Robert?
And Bethel, I normally don't try to correct anybody on a webinar, but I have to correct you. I don't know if you shared that everybody viewing has to sign a waiver because you are in for a treat. You are with two of my top favorite presenters in the world of adult education, workforce, digital, you name it, professional development. So again, Robert Breitbart, Director of Educational Partnerships with Burlington English, and everybody tuning in today, you really are in for a treat. And by the way, if any of your colleagues or friends, I promise, if they weren't able to make it today, you want to make sure you check out the COABE website for the recorded version of today. Because, like I say, Steve and Joey are just two of my favorites, and you're going to walk away with some super powerful information. For us at Burlington, we're super excited that today's today's topic uh, was custom made for what we have to share at Burlington English, is because we build in, skill-based hiring technologies and job and digital skills into everything we do, all the way from our core, if textbook, if you will, our online, our what we call Burlington Core, our 6-level core, our career exploration and soft skills. I like to call it our virtual career counselor, and then our English for specific careers. So everything that I do believe that you're going to hear Steve and Joey talk about today, we've already got built in. And then just to make it easy on you, extra easy on you for this new school year, we're launching our brand new Burlington brand new grade book to make it easier than ever for teachers to view everything of student importance all in one place. So if you haven't seen our recent email web blasts on this, please connect with your local representative to find out more, because it makes using Burlington English just easier than ever before. So with that, again, with that waiver signed for the kind of value and excitement that you're going to tune in today. And the last thing I'll say is amazing hats off to Sharon Bonney, to the to the entire COABE board, and everybody involved in COABE for all the amazing advocacy that you've done, you continue to do. I hope to see everybody virtually or on site at Flood the Hill before we know it. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the wonderful people here at COABE. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. And now I'm going to introduce our presenter, Joey Lehrman. And also in the chat, if you have any questions, my colleague Steve Schmidt, if you don't know him, he is an excellent resource. So he'll be answering any questions and that you might have. So please throw your questions in the chat. And now I'm going to turn it over to Joey.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the kind words, Robert, and to Coabe and Bethel and Steve for hosting today's session. Excited to be together for the next 50 minutes or so as we explore this future of skills-based hiring technologies. My name is Joey Lehrman. I'm here today on behalf of the International Society for Technology and Education. That's ISTE, that some of you might know. ISTE is largely known for its work in K-12. What you can see on screen is the adult learning team. So we do a lot of similar work to the broader ISTE organization, with an emphasis on adult education and workforce development. I'll put our contact information up at the end of the session in case you want to connect and explore ways to work together. I start all sessions with a digital literacy tip because I very much believe in peer learning and exploring technology together. And in the chance that you don't take anything else away from the session over the next 45 minutes, maybe there's one tip that will be useful in your work. So we're going to be using QR codes today to access a few different resources and websites. Obviously, a QR code is a great tool for instructors as a way to share resources with students without the complications of a long link. And Chrome has a built-in QR creator. And so you can go into the settings menu, click share on any page in Chrome, and use that to quickly create a QR code. What's nice about it that you can see on screen is that it allows you just to quickly copy it to your dashboard or download it. And so, like I said, quick tech tip to start the day, just in case nothing else is useful today. I'm curious to hear in chat if anybody's seen this QR code creator in Chrome, if you've used it. Nice tip to share with colleagues as a way to quickly generate a QR code and add it to a slide deck or a program flyer and so forth. So with that, I want to start today's session with a brainstorming question. Curious to hear from everybody in the chat. Let's say, just imagine you're hiring a new teacher or a navigator. You're in the position to hire. What knowledge, what skills, what kind of experience would you be looking for in those applicants? So again, you're imagining you're hiring someone, maybe it's for an adult education instructor role or a career navigator role. What kind of skills and work experience and knowledge are you looking for? And like I said, curious to hear from everybody in chat. So I'll give you all a minute to think, 30 seconds to reply, and then we'll continue on. So what kind of skills are you looking for when you're hiring a new teacher or a navigator? Rebecca, thank you for being our first brave response, talking about personal experience learning a new language as a way to understand what that experience is like and empathize with students. Elizabeth mentioning communication, Derek talking about bicultural education. Thank you all for the early responses. Ooh, Kathy with an interesting one, flexibility. Mary looking for digital skills, Google Workspace savvy, ease with tech, communication skills, time living abroad, potentially, knowledge of the content. Oh, Sydney with an interesting one. Risk taker, willing to try new things, passion to help everyone reach their greatness. Okay, awesome. Thank you all for the replies. Feel free to continue adding responses in chat. Keep those skills in mind with this next brainstorming question. So now, again, we're still hiring a teacher. How are you going to validate those skills? How are you going to confirm that your applicant has the skills to succeed in that position? So we talked about the ability to learn new things, communication, collaboration, someone that can teach digital literacy. So what I'm curious is, as you think about those skills and you're in the hiring process, what are the different ways you can try to confirm that someone has those skills? Um, and Derek, thank you for the first response to this question. Maybe they have a credential. Paul talking about references. Royce also affirming that, checking their references. So we're kind of brainstorming. Aubrey with an interesting one. Anecdotes about their experience. Keith talking about job experience. Kim saying in their interview, ask about digital skills questions. Maybe think about adding a digital skill assessment, credentialing in an e-portfolio with videos, maybe an occupational test. Awesome. These are great responses. So I want you to kind of keep these core questions in mind as we get into the session, which is all about this idea of skills. How do we track skills? How do we communicate skills? How does an employer validate skills? So we've got a lot of interesting ideas in the chat that we can return to throughout the session. Okay, so our first activity today is to explore this concept of skills-based hiring. So still in chat, curious to hear from everyone, when you hear this term, skills-based hiring, what do you wonder? Or maybe put another way, how might skills-based hiring be different than the current hiring process? So we've talked about looking at an interview or an occupational test, or maybe a sample instructional lessons, looking at references. So with those kind of methods in mind, what might this concept of skills-based hiring mean? And Kim replying, it's not the degree, it's the application of knowledge and experience. How do you actually confirm? Joy talking about 21st century skills. Today's full session is about skills-based hiring. So I'm just kind of curious to level set. What does that even mean? What is this growing trend in workforce development? Christine talking about identifying skills. Um, assume that they have the skills. How can those skills translate into the practical setting? Derek with a definition, practical skills and abilities over traditional credentials. Um, Awesome replies, everybody. 21st century skills. Ooh, interesting. It's not relational, but it's based on what can be completed or doing specific tasks. Focus on specific skills needed, not just degrees or titles. Awesome. So I want to share with everyone a resource that we've developed at SkillRise and give you all maybe 5 minutes of quiet time to explore it as the foundation for today's session. So I'm going to open up this link on screen and then I'll put the QR in the or the link in the chat and then the QR back on screen. So as you explore, you'll notice that you can scroll and you can play this on your phone or on a laptop or a desktop. Just kind of glance through this first page. When you get to the bottom of the page, you'll notice that there's branches. You can kind of explore different parts of the story. Just pause at this point and you can continue to explore these later on. But for now, either scan the QR code or follow the link in the chat and just spend a few minutes browsing that first page. And as you browse, just kind of consider, what do you notice or wonder about wallets and credentials? How might it be useful for students? What kinds of challenges might students experience as they start to interact with these digital tools? So, like I said, this is going to be about 5 minutes of just quiet exploring time with the link in chat, or you can scan the QR code and just browse that first page until you get to the bottom here and just kind of keep a pulse on what you're curious about as you're browsing this story. Feel free to share ideas or questions or reflections in the chat as you're navigating that first page. Everybody take about 2 more minutes, continue browsing that. Maybe let us know in chat when you finished and if you have any ideas or reactions or things you're curious about as you explore that first page. Everybody take about 1 more minute. Okay, if you're still playing that micro learning experience, that's okay. If something has captured your interest, feel free to stop listening to me and run with it. Whenever that curiosity strikes, it's good to kind of surf that wave. For those of you that are still with us, though, I'd ask that you come back to the session. Now that you have this link, please feel free to explore it later. This is a free resource. We obviously built this to be mobile friendly, as that's the primary device for a lot of the students that we support. Feel free to share this with colleagues or learners if you think they might be interested in exploring this concept or some of these stories. Um, I want to come back and kind of just hear some reactions and questions you might have. Also, kind of curious to extend that theme of like, hey, what are some skills that your students have developed that don't always show up on a resume? And so I'm going to scan the chat, see what kind of questions we have. So, um, talking about students being more focused on the goal, appreciating the idea of credentials. Steve with a great question. How much do employers know about digital credentials? Kelly talking about maybe it's more convenient to store digitally and therefore maybe it's easier to share. Um, Kim with this idea of skills changing all the time. So this idea of presentation of self is more important than ever. That one resonates with me based on a lot of the content we're going to look at today. Yeah, Rebecca with a great perspective on just time. Like these tools are changing so quickly. So, how is everyone going to invest the time to acquire badges? How are employers going to understand how to like navigate and interpret them? Um, yeah, great comment from Rebecca that I would encourage everyone to scroll up and read. Um, Interesting and innovative. What's the cost? People appreciating credentialing. Oh, Mary, glad to hear you like the design. Um, yeah, what kind of buy-in? Great question from a great name. Joey says, what kind of buy-in would be needed from educational employing institutions to make this viable? While it's great for us. Yeah, kind of reminds me of project-based learning. And Peggy, thanks. I'm glad to hear it might be useful to share with colleagues. So I'm curious, as you kind of keep a pulse on that, like, does this resonate with the experience you have with students? Like, have students developed skills that they don't necessarily put on their resume or even necessarily see as skills? Like, I work with a lot of adult learners that have a variety of skills, but they themselves don't necessarily believe that they have those skills or see them as skills. And so I'm curious, like, is this resonating? Is this your experience with students that they've also developed skills? Um, Hazel talking about technology badges. Yeah, help students with composing resumes from Kelly as a challenge. Okay, so kind of keep those themes in mind as we get into exploring some of these tools and topics through the balance of today's session. So, skills-based hiring, broadly speaking, is just hiring based on skills and abilities instead of just degrees in previous jobs. And I'm going to come back to that distinction shortly. As you can see with these headlines, there are a variety of companies and organizations that are starting to remove degree requirements as a way to expand the talent pool and hopefully find the right person that has the skills needed to succeed in those jobs. But I do want to emphasize that skills-based hiring isn't just exclusively about removing degree requirements. So, for example, Western Governors University and National Online University has released its own wallet and is working now to add credentials to all of its college courses and its full degree programs. And so when you think skills-based hiring, it's not necessarily just removing degree requirements. This is a technology trend that can be useful for degree-bearing students, non-traditional students, short-term training programs in a variety of settings. And you can see from the press release from Western Governors that they're talking about the purpose here is to enable students to better showcase their skills than a singular transcript. So even off of that, I can think of use cases that resonate with a lot of the students I support. So for example, a lot of students take some college courses, but don't finish a full degree. Presumably they learned something in those courses, but they only really get credit if they earn that full degree. What would it look like if after each course a credential was issued? Student could claim it, put it into their digital wallet and showcase, hey, even though I don't have a full degree, I did complete some courses and here are the skills I developed in those classes. Or even those students that do finish a full diploma, what's that process like for requesting a transcript? You often have to pay a fee, submit a written verification, wait some time. But the challenge about that is the students already spent the time and money earning the degree. How can they take ownership over that data? And a credential can allow a university to issue a 4-year degree as a digital credential and it still be verifiable, which we'll talk about briefly. Or even in a last use case, sometimes an employer might be looking for someone with digital skills and they see a college degree on their resume. Does that college degree signal anything about digital skills? But what if during college they took a course and earned an Excel certification that showcases I can functionally work with spreadsheet software? So I just wanted to emphasize that when we're talking about skills-based hiring, it's not just about removing degree requirements. It's about making data that's more useful for students and training providers and employers, open, verifiable, transferable, and we'll kind of look at what those terms mean throughout the session. And of course, COABE is a big player in this as well. Various partnerships with Google or NCCR or IBM that allow students or educators to earn certifications, kind of targeted training programs that focus on developing specific skills, whether that's project management or construction and so forth. And so this idea of data, credentials, certificates all kind of folds together under this umbrella of how can we be more specific about what skills are needed, how those skills are developed, tracked, and communicated. So to bring us back to this definition, this idea of skills-based hiring, it's how can we map what skills are needed? How can we help students understand what skills they need to develop, find high quality training programs, and then navigate that workforce system? At SkillRise, we do believe there's a lot of potential in these tools and in this technology, but also have raised a lot of the same questions that you see in chat, which is, what are the digital skills needed specifically to navigate these new tools? So last year we did research in partnership with 4 different training providers, a national online university, a community college, and an adult school, just to understand perception of digital tools for career navigation. And the findings are what you would probably expect. Students are kind of like, hey, these tools make sense. I can see the potential behind credentials and wallets, but I don't really use them now. I'm concerned that employers aren't ever going to use them. And will these just kind of reinforce the same inequities as the current workforce system? So this year we worked to extend that research and we've developed a new program that is designed to help students build digital confidence in using digital tools. This is a completely free program that we've rolled out with 4 different partners around the country. It's an 8-week cohort that allows students to explore that micro learning experience that all of you just got a chance to play around with, um, get a hands-on synchronous session. There's kind of a combination of self-paced study and peer-driven synchronous learning. Like I said, we have 4 different training partners that have about 100 different students from around the country enrolled in this program. The program is online or hybrid. There are in-person options. And we're just trying to understand how do students understand digital wallets and credentials, and how can we help them build digital confidence as resilient users of new tools. And so as we've outlined, there's a lot of different ways an employer can validate skills. They can look at a resume, they can conduct an interview, they can do a hiring task, like teach a sample lesson, they can look at credentials. When I think about validating skills from the student perspective, it's another way of saying is how do students communicate their skills? And like I said, we believe that students have skills, but might not see them as skills. And even if they do see them, help them build confidence that they're able to navigate new tools. For example, if the trend of credentials and wallets doesn't necessarily pan out as some people hope it will, how can they still have the confidence to understand when does it make sense to build out a LinkedIn profile? How can I use AI? How can I use a digital portfolio or a digital resume to practice and prepare for an interview and so forth? And so I want to briefly talk through how we tour students through that process and kind of get your feedback on the 3 different tools that we showcase throughout the tech fair itself. So we look at AI, credentials, and wallets and LinkedIn, and I'm going to briefly tour each of those now and give you all a chance to play around with them. What I'll say at the outset is bring a critical eye here. We're not here to necessarily convince you, and we're not here in our program with students to convince them that these tools work. This is an exploratory conversation where we're trying to ask, are these tools useful for career navigation? If so, how and when does it make sense for me as a job seeker to leverage these technologies as part of my job search and as part of my upskilling and lifelong learning process? So I'm going to break it into three chunks, like I said, and showcase each of the three tools. The first that we look at is Career Dreamer. And like I said, I'm going to give everybody a chance to play around with this in a minute after I kind of showcase it on screen. This is a new AI tool from Google, and I'll just kind of model how it works. So you jump in and it gives you this light, accessible prompt. Share a previous role that you had. So the first job I had ever had in high school was I was a dog kennel associate. From that, Career Dreamer works with Gemini, the model in the background, to generate a list of tasks that I might have completed. And it's asking me now, hey, which tasks have you developed in this work? Sir, did you complete? So I cleaned kennels, I monitored dogs, I fed and watered them. I did not administer medications. We had a vet on staff for that. Exercise and socialized records and maintained accurate records. So even in that job of just like I thought I was kind of like hanging out with dogs. Actually, like I'm doing a little bit of data entry. That's a valuable skill. I'm cleaning, I'm socializing with clients, and so forth. And so from here, Gemini will now generate some insights for me and say, now select the three skills that you think apply to you. So animal handling, record keeping, customer service. If I'm not sure what one of those skills are, I can hover over it and it gives me a plain language definition or description of that skill. Teamwork, problem solving. Yeah, I mean, realistically, all of these skills. So at this point, I've now entered one of those positions, and there's a couple things that happen. First of all, it generates a career identity statement for me, the kind of thing that you can pop at the top of a resume. I can also explore career paths. So based on the skills that I've developed in that one position, Career Dreamer is now trying to figure out here are some roles or pathways that could be worth exploring. So, customer service manager, or animal shelter technician, or customer service rep, or zookeeper. And I can hover over any of these and get a sense for what kind of degree do I need, how much experience, what's the typical pay range. And remember, I've only inputted one job. I could certainly come back here and add the education that I have. I could add another job description, any interest that I have. And so in part of our program, we walk students through this tool because some are parents and realize that, oh, through this, I've developed skills as a parent, or I'm a caregiver for my mom, or I've been out of work, but I do have volunteer experience. All of that could be input in here as a way to unpack what skills were developed in that. And so, as Steve has put into the chat, I want to give everybody like 2 minutes. Just pop over to Career Dreamer right now and play around with it. Like, what do you notice? What do you wonder? What do you like about it? Maybe put in one of your own jobs, add reactions to the chat. And I know I'm moving quickly today. I'm trying to get through some content, but all of the slide deck and all the materials will be shared after the session as well, including these links so you can continue to explore them on your own time. So go ahead and play with Career Dreamer maybe for 2 minutes and then we'll come back together to hear reactions. Pick another 30, 45 seconds, keep playing around with Career Dreamer, and then we'll continue on. Okay, I'm excited and curious to hear reactions. I want to briefly continue on and show one other AI use case that we demo for students. Again, trying to develop this skills first mindset. It's not necessarily just about technology. It's not necessarily just about degrees or credential. How can we help students start thinking in skills? What skills do I have? What skills do I want to develop? And so forth. So a great comment from Elizabeth in chat, which is I can really see the value in this, but it doesn't give me a way to reprompt it. So I'm going to give myself a different title. At this point in the session, we first introduce Career Dreamer because it's got that nice interface. It kind of guides students through that AI prompting. But with that said, we also demo how to do the same kind of thing with a chatbot like ChatGPT. So, for example, we'll come into ChatGPT and say, ask me questions about my past job, school, or volunteer work to help me identify my skills. So you can kind of see it's the same kind of prompt as Career Dreamer, but now I'm in an open chatbot. For some students, that interface can be nice because it guides them through, but other students, like Elizabeth mentioned, wanted to be able to follow up and ask more questions or kind of prompt it deeper to revise things over time. So we'll kind of guide them through, hey, you can do that with ChatGPT as well. And it's a completely open sandbox where you can prompt it however you want, ask questions, ask follow-ups. We'll take it a step further and we'll say, here's a job description. What skills are most important for this role? And I have a job description opened in LinkedIn right now. I'm just going to copy and paste it over. So here's the job description, and I'm coming back over to ChatGPT, and I'm wrapping it in triple quotes. That's kind of a quick AI tip. That's how you distinguish between content and prompt. So here's the prompt. I want you to apply the prompt to the following content, and I paste the job description between those triple quotes. And remember, I've asked, here's a job description. What skills are most important for this role? And so now ChatGPT will scan this job description and it's going to identify for me, here are the key proficiencies. I'm going to pause it and ask a follow-up question. What digital skills are needed to access the role? And what digital skills should I develop to advance in the role? List 3 for each. Great question. And so now it's kind of pulling out, here are the digital skills that you need. Communication skills, Microsoft Project, Smartsheet, if you want to advance in the role. So now for me as a student, this is giving me a roadmap. If this is a job that I'm interested in, here are the foundational digital skills that I need to get started. And here are the more advanced skills if you want to continue to grow in that role. I could then, of course, prompt it and follow up from here based on my skills and job description. How can I best describe my experience to match role? So now this is giving me a chance to follow up based off of my resume and say, hey, here are the things that you should emphasize. And I can work with ChatGPT to now customize this and align this with the job description. Great question for Rebecca, from Rebecca in the chat about all the extensive language presented. This is one primary reason that we show both Career Dreamer here and ChatGPT, because of course with ChatGPT I can say, actually, can you respond and let's have this whole conversation in Spanish. And if it's an English language learner, they could just engage entirely in Spanish. Or I could say, whoops, I meant, can you just use plain or simple language in English? And so we can get the chatbot to kind of change the language used or the language rigor based on what we want our students to kind of be able to navigate with. And so it's a key reason that we showcase both Career Dreamer and an open chatbot to kind of support different accessibility needs and goals. And so now that we've looked at both Career Dreamer and ChatGPT overall, I'm curious to hear in chat, and I'll kind of scroll and see some of the comments. What seems useful about these tools, or how might you use these tools yourself or with the students that you work with? So curious to hear from you in chat. What do you think about Career Dreamer? What do you think about some of those prompts with ChatGPT? Cool. Seems like people like Career Dreamer. Kelly with a great comment about students relating fast food or restaurant experience. Exactly. There are skills that were developed in that role that can be transferable. How can we help students understand and identify and communicate those skills? Oh, cool. Elizabeth thinking about using it in a career readiness class. Mary for talking points. Yeah, and I saw a chat up above about this. And of course, I could go back to ChatGPT now that we've built my resume, generate 5 interview questions I'm likely to get for this position. So now, based on the position above, it's giving me a chance to prepare for an interview. I could then, with students, have them draft or even use voice mode to reply to these questions and then get feedback. Hey, ChatGPT, here's my response to that question. Give me feedback on that so students can identify skills, build a resume, practice for an interview, all through this kind of ChatGPT interface, or Gemini or Cloud or any of the other kind of popular chatbots. Fred noticing that it might be Career Junior might be better for students with lower tech skills. Yep, exactly why we kind of showcase both and give students an opportunity to try both. So it's not necessarily for me as a facilitator to say, hey, you should use Career Junior. We want students to get experience trying both and then go through a critical process themselves to determine how is this tool useful for me, given my unique experience, my goals, and the context in which I'm using these technologies. Other reactions. Yep, Corey, very great point. Of course, AI should be cross-checked for accuracy, and we'll kind of build that AI literacy. Remember, this will be an 8-week program with students, and you're seeing just kind of like a 45-minute segment of it. And we talk about how do we cross-check, how do we verify, how do we critically engage. So sometimes we'll do an exercise where it's like, here's how I would respond to these interview questions. Now I want to see how AI will respond to the same questions, and then have students compare and contrast. What did AI say? What did you say? What do you like? What's different? What are you going to kind of learn from that critical comparison? Yeah, cool. Kathy, great point about using a tool like this to blend both digital literacy and career navigation courses. That's the exact intersection of the work we're trying to do at SkillRise as well. Okay, so first of 3 tools we look at is AI. The second is credentials and wallets for skill tracking. So we'll introduce this idea of a mobile wallet. This is a place where you can kind of store credentials over time. So every time you complete an online class or a college course, take that credential, put it into a wallet. We're not going to have enough time in today's session to actually download this wallet, but I wanted to put it up here because Koei will send this slide deck out after today's session. There are actually hundreds of different wallets you could explore around. Just to distinguish, this isn't like Apple Pay or Google Pay, although it is a digital wallet. These are specifically for tracking learner and employment records, experiences that you've had in work and school. This is a free open source one from MIT. We then give students a chance to download a sample credential, and I'll show you what that looks like. So you can go to this website, you can enter a name and email address, and then have a badge issued. This is just kind of like a sample exploratory badge. It's not like next to something that's recognized by employers. It's just a chance to kind of play around with a wallet and a credential on the phone, because our goal is not to say this is useful. We want students to look at this and say, what is this? How does it work? How can I learn how to use it? And then decide for themselves, is this useful for me? If so, how and when will it be useful? And if I'm not sure how to use it, how can I build the skills to continue leveraging these tools as part of my career search? So students earn the credentials. And I want to kind of draw this back to this idea of like, I'm taking a college class. Every time I finish a class, the university or college issues a credential to me. I claim it, and then that is now mine. I have data sovereignty. It's added to my wallet, and I can use that to track over time. From the employer perspective, what does it look like for them to consume or look at a credential? I want to show you a live demo of that now. So I have a variety of credentials that I've added to my LinkedIn profile. You can see even the COABE ones, the AI Essentials, Project Management. I'll show specifically one that we built at ISTE. So here's a digital skills credential. It's based on a digital skills assessment that we built with the North Star team. Let me quickly show this credential. So remember, from an employer perspective, if they just see a college diploma or a degree, it doesn't really signal much about specific skills. But one of the many benefits or potential benefits of these tools is that I can package a lot of data into a credential. So if an employer were to see this credential on my profile or in my digital wallet, they can see, oh, how was it earned? When was it issued? Does it expire? What were the skills that were packaged into this credential? And if they want, they can use cryptography to verify that badge. So you can see now that this issuer has been verified. So now the employer can see that this isn't a fabricated credential. This is authentic. It was issued by this organization and it was earned by this learner. So it can now be verified by that employer as an authentic credential that showcases all of the skills that were kind of packaged into the metadata of that credential. So as you think about that perspective, go back to that brainstorming question at the start of the session. Imagine you were hiring a teacher and you were looking for digital skills. Would this verification process be useful for you? Like, why or why not? What are the pros and cons? What kind of questions does it raise? Is it helpful to see deeper data besides just credential or degree? You're in the hiring position. What does that look like for you? Does this help you? Why or why not? Curious to hear from people in chat what you think about this idea of verifying a credential. Keep that question in mind. I want to kind of continue on into the last. Elizabeth noting that it would be helpful. Monica with a very salient question. How many institutions or credentialing agents use this type of badge system? Great question. And Mary talking about maybe be helpful for getting through the first wave of applicants. Maybe Paul saying it could save time. Um, Kim saying it could be helpful for applicants to have these technologies. Gene kind of pinpointing one of the key value propositions there, which is giving more information to both the candidate and the employer. Great comment there. Ryan noticing that students are excited to earn digital badges, helps them build confidence, teaching them how to display and share them effectively is key. I think that's kind of what we're learning too. Okay, so 3 tools, AI, which includes Career Dreamer and ChatGPT, wallets and credentials, and then lastly, we spend time looking at LinkedIn. We give students a chance to play around with different LinkedIn profiles in an analytical sense. Check out a few profiles. What do you like about them? How do you appreciate the way they're presenting their skills? What do you want to borrow from their profile and bring over to yours? What do you not like about their profile? Get a sense to kind of play around and get a feel for what LinkedIn is and how it works. We then go on a direct tour of some of the key features of LinkedIn, one of which I'll showcase now. So for example, I'm a project manager. I live in Kentucky. I'm often looking for work. So I'll just search for project manager in Lexington. What we find very helpful about this feature is that we can set these different feature or filters. So for example, let's say that I'm only looking for part-time work and I'm only looking for remote work. So I can kind of turn those filters on and then show any jobs that fit that specific filter and that specific search. And then from here, I can set an alert. So anytime a new job is created that fits that specific filter, I will get an email and a notification in LinkedIn that a new job has been posted that fits my criteria. And so we showcase this for students as a way to say, hey, set up multiple features if you want, or filters if you want, and get several notifications a day for different jobs in different industries and different search filter and so forth, and automatically get that email notification. Great question for Linda. Is this the paid version? It is not. This is the free version, free access to the job boards, the search, the filters, and most specifically, those alerts that you can get. From here, we also talk about, now that you've explored some profiles, maybe set up some job filters, played around with AI to get a sense of what jobs you want to develop, we encourage students to start using LinkedIn as their kind of single source of truth. So every time you, for example, earn a new certification, add it to your LinkedIn. Anytime you have a new job or develop a skill, add it to your LinkedIn. And so that kind of becomes your record of skills over time, similar to how a wallet might work, because there's a nice feature up here that students seem to appreciate. You can jump in and immediately save your entire profile as a PDF, which I'll just show you now in the live demo what that looks like. What's cool about this is it formats it as a resume. So by treating LinkedIn as my primary source, I don't have to worry about different versions of a Word file and updating resumes over time. I just keep coming back to my LinkedIn as a way to establish what skills, what certifications, and so forth I have. And then I can quickly just create that as a PDF and tour students around that feature as a way to treat LinkedIn as that wallet or tracking feature over time of the different skills that you've developed. So I know this graphic looks confusing, but I want to kind of bring this all together into the story that we're trying to help students see, which is it's not about a specific digital tool. It's not about credentials or AI. It's about how can you bring those together into developing a skills mindset. So imagine a student sits down with a career navigator and they open an AI chatbot and they can immediately just have a conversation with real-time data. Let's look at local employer data, who's hiring, what skills are they looking for? What credentials do I need? Now, let me go find a high quality credentialing program or a training program or a community college that has been vetted and has real time labor market data and reviews from students. What are the training programs in my area that allow me to earn that credential? How can I then digest that credential, track it, showcase it? How can I prepare for interviews? So, this idea is it's not necessarily about one tool as much as how can we get students thinking about skills and using that to both tell their story, but also track and be more focused in how and where they're spending their time in school and in the workforce. So, very briefly, before I talk about what we've learned through this research this year and where we're going from here, I'm just kind of curious to hear from everyone. What did you think about those tools? What do you think about AI and Career Dreamer? What do you think about wallets and credentials and LinkedIn? Do they seem useful? Are they useful for students in navigating school and work? Which ones? How might they be useful? Curious to hear from you in chat, and then I'll spend about 2 minutes talking through what we've learned through this research this year. Roy saying, think it's all great. Yeah, great comment from Elizabeth. Tools seem useful, need more free ones that allow students to earn credentials and certificates. Rebecca noticing that it's nice to be open, the openness of a credential that allows for skill verification. Mary saying they already use LinkedIn, thinking students will appreciate Career Dreamer, also going to explore the MIT wallet. Monica saying they could be easy to use, but want to spend some more time on them. People appreciating Career Dreamer, useful for higher level English learners. Um, Concerned with people over relying on AI. Very interesting and important perspective from Joey. How do we encourage critical engagement with AI instead of just kind of like mindless reliance on it? Um, and yeah, Keith talking about introducing students to LinkedIn as a tool for them, not just for others to see. Cool. Okay, so here's what we've been learning. Quick, I guess, trivia question. Which tool do you think participants have been saying is most useful? Like I said, we look at a variety of tools together over the 8-week course. Those are shown on screen now. Which do you think has proven to be the most popular tools according to students? Which do students say they think will be the most useful? You have about 30 seconds for people to guess. There is a clear popular response to this trivia question, and most of you guessed it correct. These are now listed in order from top to bottom of what students are finding to be the most useful tools: AI, LinkedIn, job search, digital resumes, credentials, and wallets. So to us, it makes sense that credentials and wallets are listed last. And again, that's okay. We're not here to say these tools are useful. It's a critical engagement process. Lots of peer dialogue and learning to explore, are these tools useful? If so, how are they useful? Students are saying that they're feeling more confident after completing the program, planning on continuing to use skills-based technologies, and changing how they think about technology and its role in their career navigation process. And a few quotes that I'll highlight. This is probably my favorite. I learned how to convert life skills into job skills. This program showed me I bring value even without a degree. These tools help me personalize applications. Adding credentials already makes me feel more confident. And so that's kind of the intent of the program, is to help students explore digital tools and build confidence as empowered users of those technologies. So moving forward, we're starting to evolve the model now. We're adding more intentional interview practice, as that was the most requested feature from students that completed the program. Also looking for ways to set up a cohort where there can be peer feedback. So I'm going to build my skills first resume and share it with peers to get feedback on it and evolve that by comparing and contrasting how everyone is approaching. Because there isn't a single best way to use these tools. There's value in hearing different approaches and how people are critically engaging, even what mistakes they're making, as students learn collaboratively from those mistakes. We are now planning to scale the program starting next year. And so we are looking for training providers and adult learners that are interested in bringing a free digital skills training to their program and using this as an opportunity to explore career navigation tools. If you're interested in participating, send us an email. And our email addresses are listed on screen here in case you want to reach out. And I'm glad to see that we have a few minutes left. So I'll pause here. If I missed a question in chat, I'm going to try to find it now, but please feel free to post it again or flag something that I may have missed. Or if any new questions have emerged, we have a few minutes for questions and comments. So I'm curious to hear what you think, what questions you have. And like I said, please do reach out if you're interested in collaborating and bringing, like I said, this is a free program and we're looking for partners to help us grow the program. So curious to hear what questions you have or to talk more after today if you're interested in learning more. Any questions? Did I miss anything in the chat that is worth talking about today? Oh, thanks for the kind words, everybody. I hope it was useful in some small way. Any questions? Any comments? Cool. Well, I will hang out for a couple minutes in case anybody wants to chat, but thank you all so much for spending some of your time with us today, and I hope it was useful, and I look forward to hopefully talking to any of you soon. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Joey just had a